Bullies mock blind student. Moments later, she turns the tables with karate and tech. Imagine walking into Eastside Magnet on your first day. White cane tapping dark glasses, hiding eyes that haven't seen in years, when a sneering captain of the school's safety patrol dumps orange juice down your back and dozens of phones lift in mock applause. You weren't invited to this spectacle, you were chosen. But what happens when the target you pick on turns out to be more powerful than you ever imagined? In the next 35 minutes, you'll witness a blind athlete turn technology and truth into the ultimate reckoning. Subscribe and hit the bell if you won't stand by while power crushes the vulnerable. Over the next 35 minutes, you'll watch a blind athlete transform public humiliation into a weapon of truth, using technology and unbreakable courage to expose corruption. Like, comment your verdict, because justice demands action. The amber sunrise glinted off the glass facade of Eastside Magnet High as Zara Thompson's cane tapped a steady staccato across the concrete plaza. Atlanta's steamy morning air carried the distant rumble of MARTA trains and the faint hum of traffic on Moreland Avenue. Zara paused at the top of the front steps, closed her eyes, and inhaled peppery scent of magnolias mixing with diesel fumes before peeling off her dark glasses and stepping inside a lobby lined with murals celebrating the city's civil rights legacy. Inside, students milled between sleek digital kiosks, broadcasting announcements in multiple languages. Posters proclaimed equity in education and touted the school's cutting-edge STEAM labs funded by tech philanthropists. Yet beneath the polished veneer, tensions simmered. The new screen-in policy let the administration monitor every hallway camera, and whispers swirled that certain cliques, kids born into money, enjoyed unwritten immunity. Zara's footsteps rang out as her cane traced textured floor tiles, guiding her to the athletics wing. Locker doors in primary hues lined the corridor. A mural of Jesse Owens' sprinter tightened her resolve. At 17, she'd broken city records in the 400-meter dash for 2 years running, despite losing her sight at 9. Her hand brushed the cold metal of her assigned locker, a gift from Coach Ramirez, who insisted Zara be treated like any other champion on the track. Inside lay her folded uniform reflective headband and an Echo Cane prototype from Ethan Kim, a senior tech whiz who'd rigged ultrasonic sensors to offer subtle audio cues whenever obstacles came too close. Zara slid her fingers over the embossed school crest and closed the door gently. As she pivoted toward the gym entrance, laughter tumbled down the hall. She recognized the clipped cadence of Brandon Whitmore, son of the vice principal and head of the student resource officers, surrounded by his security patrol entourage. Their polished badges gleamed. Brandon's voice carried easily. "Watch this. I'll show you why you don't belong here." Zara's pulse spiked, but she kept her shoulders level, letting the tiled hallway swallow her silence. A few feet beyond Mia Rodriguez, her new multimedia classmate nudged her with a grin. "Morning, Zara. I've got the live stream set up for track tryouts," Mia whispered voice, low and warm, her accent a melody from her Puerto Rican grandmother's kitchen. Zara nodded grateful as Mia darted off to prep camera angles. Moments later, Ethan approached, earbuds tucked behind his ears. "Kane's battery's at 93%, he announced quietly, tapping the device in her hand. "I've fine-tuned the foam tracking algorithm so it'll pick up stray backpacks, spilled water bottles, even someone sneaking up behind you." Before Zara could respond, the lockers clanged as Brandon swaggered into view. He wore crisp khakis and a tailored polo, his posture perfect as if every corridor belonged to him. "Nice cane," he smirked, voice casual but laced with challenge. "Bet it can't see this." He flicked the hallway fire alarm lever, bathing everything in red warning strobe. Students screamed, phones whipped out to record, alarms blared. Zara's heart thundered. The cane's quiet beeps accelerated Ethan's algorithm, reacting to the sudden commotion. Zara drew herself tall, heart hammering against ribs honed by sprint training. She threaded through panicked classmates' cane, carving a path through the chaos, her senses a tapestry of echoes, the skitter of high tops, the spray of a spilled water bottle, the hiss of smoke from the alarm system. She found Coach Ramirez at the gym doors, hand on the emergency panel. Recovering, the coach asked, with a proud smile. Zara braced herself on the doorframe. Always, she said. As the faculty dispatched, Zara visualized the track ahead, 8 lanes stretching toward the afternoon sun, each one a promise. Today's tryouts would determine the state championship relay team and her final shot at a full athletic scholarship. But first she had to navigate every hidden trap, the stifled jeers in the hallway, the suit-taped sensors Brandon planted in her locker, the coded insult in the cheerleaders' group chat. Every obstacle was calculated to humiliate a blind athlete until she turned it back on them. Stepping onto the gym floor, the wooden planks whispered beneath her spikes. She steadied her racing blocks by touch muscles, primed from years of dojo discipline, another gift from her father, a retired Marine who taught her to fight for every inch. Around her, 20 hopefuls bounded toward starting lines under the harsh white lights. She folded her cane and laid it beside her center lane. The crowd's murmur dipped when Brandon took lane 4, eyes locked on her. Zara inhaled through her nostrils the sweat, the resin from the basketball court, the faint scent of chalk on concrete, and exhaled fully. In that breath, she carried every injustice, every snicker, every drop of spilled orange juice. She flexed her shoulders. The starter pistol clicked into her mind. When the gun finally cracked, Zara exploded forward, not as a victim, but as a force everyone would have to reckon with. The hallway fell silent the moment the fire alarm strobe stopped flashing, an eerie calm that smelled of melted plastic and panic. Zara's cane emitted a rapid double beep as the corridor emptied, and she sensed every vibration beneath her feet, the skid of high tops on polished tile, the metallic click of lockers swinging shut, the hushed rush of students fleeing toward exits. Her heart hammered throat tight, but she steadied her breath. This wasn't her first trap. That afternoon, Brandon Whitmore had cornered her in the courtyard under the pretense of apologizing. "Look, Zara, I'm sorry about the juice," he'd said, voice silky and contrite, offering a wad of paper towels. But Ethan's Echo cane had picked up a faint metallic scrape, Brandon's colleagues planting a cell phone recorder in Zara's bag moments before. Mia's livestream had caught the exchange from a hidden angle, broadcasting it instantly to Chuckered Justice for Zara. Within minutes, comments flooded in. "He's playing nice, watch out." The digital tide of sympathy surged in Zara's favor, but that only made Brandon's next move more vicious. The scramble to the track tryouts should have been her escape, 6 lanes of rubber waiting like a promise. But Brandon sabotaged that too. Moments before the starter pistol, Zara felt an odd wobble underfoot. Her cane beeped sharply as she crouched to sweep the lane. Someone had slipped a thin, nearly transparent wire tripwire, betraying dirt in the mesh that nearly tangled her spikes. She straightened, heart pounding like a drumbeat in her ears, pressed her fingertips to her thigh to calm the panic, then started on the false gunshot. Her legs burned as she surged forward, chest-heaving muscles screaming, but Brandon's smirk glowed under the stadium lights as he crossed the finish line first. Commentators praised his natural talent, but Mia's stream revealed the wire. The video went viral before the medal ceremony, exposing Brandon's edge and triggering his fury. That night, Zara's dorm room felt unsafe. Someone she didn't know who had slipped a note under her door. "Nobody likes a cheat." The words were scrawled in thick black marker on a scrap of cardboard. Her pulse jerked as she picked it up, knuckles white around the edges. The Echo cane's foam tracking mode chirped in warning a backpack had been left in the corner too close. Ethan's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Don't touch it. We're sweeping for a tracking device." Moments later, he reported 5 hidden mics and a GPS beacon under her bed. "They're watching you," he warned. Zara swallowed bile, shoved the note into her pocket, and lay awake, listening to the ceiling fan, each whir a countdown to the next ambush. Next morning, brand new scrawls covered bathroom mirrors. "Blind lead us, fake athlete." The harsh fluorescent glare made every letter look tauntingly bold. Zara's stomach twisted, but she didn't flinch. Instead, she braced her knuckles on the sink, felt the cool porcelain, and spoke to her reflection. "They can't break me." A janitor. Mr. Barnes winked from the stall next door. He'd found her tilting her head, listening to the damp echo of his footsteps as he mopped. "You're not alone," he mouthed, and that small solidarity stoked her resolve. By midweek, the conflict had metastasized into digital war. Brandon leaked partial snapshots of Zara's medical record, a breach of privacy that painted her as a liability to college recruiters. Headlines popped up: top sprinter's injury risk exposed. Sorority sisters exchanged gossip about financial aid cuts. At lunch, Zara navigated past pitbull faces, students muttering, and recording her tray with phones rigged to livestream conspiratorially. She moved with precision, Kane slicing through the air, finding an empty table in the library. There, Mia and Ethan greeted her with fresh juice and fierce determination. "We've got your back," Mia whispered. Ethan clicked open a folder, GPS logs proving Brandon's tracker was on her backpack. A map lit up, tracing his late-night prowling around her dorm. Zara's pulse slowed as relief flooded through her. This was evidence the school had to act on. Yet the administration dragged its feet. Vice Principal Whitmore, Brandon's father, dismissed the logs as harmless tech pranks. He leaned in across his mahogany desk and fixed Zara with cold eyes. "Your coach says you're too emotional. Maybe you should focus on academics." He slid a reprimand across the table. It felt like a punch to the gut, privilege protecting privilege. Zara's hands fluttered at her sides, cane tip, scratching the lino. She forced herself to sit up straight, jaw clenched, and said evenly, "I'm not here to meet your expectations. I'm here to run." His smirk grew jagged, and she knew then that the system itself was against her. That night, Zara returned to the dojo, where discipline was carved in her bones. Sensei Park's booming voice echoed off the walls. "In silence, you learn strength. In pressure, you find character." She trained blindfolded, every strike and block a conversation between body and air. Her muscles memorized the patterns etched by years of repetition, and her breathing slowed to a warrior's calm. She felt the floor vibrate with distant traffic, the faint tick of the dojo clock, even the subtle hum of a subway 2 miles away. When Sensei Park finally called time, Zara's shirt clung to her back, sweat tracing the lines of her spine. She slid off the blindfold, heart steady. "They think they can control you," he said softly. "Now you know you control yourself." The crescendo built at Friday's assembly. The auditorium's seats gleamed under spotlights. Donors, parents, administrators all gathered to laud Eastside Magnet's achievements. Zara sat with Mia, Ethan, and Mr. Barnes in the front row, her chosen family. Brandon swaggered on stage, ready to unveil a new sportsmanship initiative. As he spoke, Zara's cane tapped a slow, deliberate rhythm against the wood floor, her silent metronome of determination. Mia's livestream camera was poised, Ethan's tablet primed to switch feeds. Zara pictured that note, the tripwire, the budging stairs, the stolen juice, all their cruelty distilled into this moment. When Brandon activated the school's AV system, he thought it was his stage. Instead, Ethan's screen flickered, and Mia's voice echoed through the speakers. "This is Don'twatcher Justice for Zara. Watch what happens when truth runs free." Unbeknownst to Brandon, Ethan had hacked the feed, overlaying footage of every sabotage: the wire at the track, the tripwire in the hall, the tape under Zara's chair, Brandon planting the GPS in her bag. The auditorium gasped as his own voice accusing Zara of cheating played, followed by images of his father dismantling Echo Kane receivers under her bed. The screen split to show the text messages he'd sent to cheerleaders, urging them to insult Zara online. Brandon froze, every accolade evaporating. His chest heaved, face ashen. Administrators leapt from behind their desks, clutching microphones, but Zara's triangle of allies had already taken control. Mia's camera panned to Zara, whose head tilted gently, dark glasses reflecting the shattered facade of privilege. Her voice carried over the stunned hush. "You tried to blind me with lies, but I've never needed sight to see your truth." The auditorium erupted in cheers, the legal shield around Brandon crumpling in seconds. In those 12 minutes of conflict's crescendo, Zara transformed every assault on her dignity into evidence of systemic cruelty and turned the spotlight onto those who wielded power without accountability. The walls shook with applause, and in that roar Zara felt something she hadn't allowed herself before vindication. This was only the beginning. Zara sank into her locker room stall, heart still pounding from the meeting with Vice Principal Whitmore. His clipped dismissal, "Your coach says you're too emotional," had felt like a slap in the face. She slid her echo cane onto the bench, fingers trembling as she replayed every insult, every sabotage. In that moment, she realized silence was consent. She would no longer endure their cruelty in private, she would expose it. She rose, steeling herself with a deep breath that rattled her ribs like a drum roll. The plan crystallized tomorrow's charity gala. Eastside's Grand Equity in Action fundraiser would be their stage. Brandon Whitmore would brandish his polished badge and rehearsed speech parading his father's influence under the chandelier lights. Instead, Zara would hijack every camera, every live stream, every speaker system to reveal the truth. First, she enlisted Mia Rodriguez. Over coffee in the dim corner of the cafeteria, Mia's eyes lit at Zara's low-voiced briefing. "I'll map every camera angle," Mia promised, fingers flying across her tablet. She'd hide a discreet 4K rig in Brandon's reserved seat, linked to her encrypted channel. Then Ethan, Kim, tech genius and fellow outsider, would infiltrate the AV network. He'd plant a backdoor during soundcheck, switch the feed at precisely 8:30 p.m., and overlay footage of every malicious act: tripwires, GPS tags, hacked medical records, time-stamped, undeniable. Late that evening, Zara met Ethan in the lab's shadowy back room. He passed her a slim USB drive. "This contains the override script," he whispered. "When you whisper code word echo, it triggers the swap. Cameras, mics, even the principal's prompter will broadcast our feed." Zara's fingers tightened around the drive. The weight of it felt like a loaded pistol, terrifying, necessary. Next, Mr. Barnes, the custodian, who had quietly documented every harassment. In the echoing hush of the empty hallway, he pressed a bulging envelope into Zara's hand. Inside were handwritten logs, dates, times, timestamps, and a micro SD card with footage he'd captured on his mobile. "Your story deserves more than hearsay," he said, voice low as wisdom. "This is the proof." Zara nodded, eyes stinging with gratitude and urgency. Back in her dorm, Zara laid every piece of evidence on her bed: Mia's camera schematics, Ethan's script, Mr. Barnes's logs, and her own journal entries describing the sting of orange juice, the tripwires snap, the GPS beep in her pocket. She closed her eyes and felt the bruises beneath her school uniform, the restless ache of betrayal. "This is for every time they tried to break me," she whispered. Her voice was steady, no tremor of doubt. The next afternoon, Zara donned a simple navy blue dress, the same color as the gala invitations, pairing it with low-profile sneakers for swift movement. She tucked the USB drive into her bra strap, secured the micro SD in her shoe lining, and pocketed her cane. Each click of her heels as she approached the auditorium doors registered like heartbeat echoes in her ears. This was her crucible. Inside, parents in cocktail attire and donors in tailored suits mingled under crystal chandeliers. The hum of conversation buzzed like insects. Brandon stood on stage with the vice principal at his side, boasting of student-led equity initiatives. Zara slipped into the front row beside Mia and Ethan, her fingertips grazing the envelope of evidence in Mr. Barnes's pocket at her side. As the vice principal introduced the keynote, Brandon's scripted address on integrity in leadership, Ethan's voice buzzed in Zara's earpiece, 30 seconds to override. Mia's camera, hidden in Brandon's reserved chair, tilted just enough to capture his smirk as he began. Zara felt adrenaline surge through her veins, flesh igniting from fingertips to collarbone. She nodded imperceptibly. At 3, 2, 1, Zara pressed her palm against her chest code word, whispered inaudibly, "Echo." In that instant, a flicker rippled across every screen in the room. The slick slideshow vanished, each projector and speaker seized by Ethan's override. Mia's live feed burst to life on the big screen, grain-sharp footage of Brandon's accomplices wiring Zara's cane. Logan setting the hall tripwire, Brent slipping the GPS tracker into her backpack. Gasps thundered through the crowd. Confusion rippled across parents' faces. Whispers surged into shouts. Brandon's voice, live and unfiltered, crackled through the speakers. Yes, I rigged her events. His confession spilled over the ambient noise. Then Mr. Barnes's footage. Brandon's father ordering the tampering footage of him shutting off hallway cameras, suing a whistleblower janitor. Zara rose from her seat, the auditorium lights dimming as she stepped to the stage. Her cane lay at the foot of the podium, an abandoned witness turned symbol of defiance. She placed the microSD card in the lectern mic, her fingers brushing the metal cold as truth. The hush deepened until even the crystal seemed to hold its breath. Tonight, Zara's voice rang out clear, unwavering. We witnessed how privilege weaponizes silence. She paused, letting the words sink in like stones dropping into still water. They thought my blindness made me easy prey. But I see more than they ever imagined. The evidence played again behind her, unspooling their betrayals for every donor, every parent, every board member. Brandon's face paled under the chandelier's glow. His practiced arrogance crumbled. The vice principal tried to seize the mic, but Mia's feed cut him off mid-sentence. Board members leapt to their feet, some to applaud, others to flee in embarrassment. Ethan's final clip loaded a text thread planning further sabotage, next week's academic awards, next month's scholarship announcements. By the time Zara took her final breath, the auditorium floor was littered with dropped wine glasses and shattered illusions. Security rushed forward, but the digital tapestry of truth was already circulating beyond those walls, shared, tweeted, reposted. The fundraising gala, once a stage for polished optics, had become the crucible where justice burned brightest. Backstage, Zara gathered Mia, Ethan, and Mr. Barnes in a tight circle. Their eyes glistened with the same fierce pride. They had taken every blow and forged it into a weapon of exposure. Tomorrow the board would meet in crisis. Brandon's father would face an inquiry. The SRO unit would be stripped of its unchecked power. But in that charged moment, amid the echo of applause from a crowd transformed, Zara felt something deeper than victory. She'd reclaimed her narrative, shattered the immunity of privilege, and shown everyone that true vision requires nothing more than the courage to turn your scars into proof. And as she lifted her cane once more, not as a crutch, but as a banner, she knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter in Eastside's fight for real equity. The chandelier's crystals fractured the light into dancing prisms as Zara stepped onto the stage, her heartbeat a steady drumbeat in her ears. The auditorium's hum stilled as every eye turned to the empty podium, flickering screens, and then to her. In one hand she held the slim USB drive, in the other the microSD card glinting under the spotlights. This was her moment. She placed the USB into the podium's port. A single click echoed like a starter pistol. Instantly, the gala's polished slideshow sputtered and died. Every projector shuttered out the veneer of celebration. Mia's hidden camera feed burst to life on the grand screens first. Brandon's smug face as he winked at his father backstage. Then the wire at the track, Brandon's booted foot snagging Zara's lane, the slick angle of Logan planting the tripwire in the hall, the GPS tag slipping beneath Zara's backpack by Brent's hand. Gasps rolled through the crowd. Some faces paled, others shifted in stunned recognition. Zara heard the vice principal's breath catch behind her, felt Brandon's fingers tighten on the railing as he realized his control had been hijacked. The murmurs rose to shouts. She tapped the podium again. Mia's voice cut through the chaos in crisp live commentary. What you're seeing is not fiction. It's the truth behind Eastside's polished image. Every act of sabotage, every breach of privacy, every calculated humiliation is documented, time-stamped, and now exposed. The video switched text threads of Brandon mocking Zara's blindness, photos of Sammy's audio mapping device under her desk, snippets of a private board meeting discussing how to handle the liability she represented. Brandon bolted from the wings, his tailored jacket flapping like a wounded bird's wing. He lunged for the mic, but Ethan's override had locked the circuit. The feed cut to the flickering hallway cameras recording him pressing the fire alarm lever, the recycled orange juice splashing down Zara's back, the laughter that followed. Each moment looped, magnifying his crimes until his own voice betrayed him. She doesn't belong. Let's see her fail. His fragments echoed in the vaulted ceiling, turning his arrogance into a confession. At the stage's edge, Zara felt her cane's gentle vibration in her back pocket, her lifeline now a trophy of her victory. She stepped forward, voice ringing clear. You thought you could silence me with pranks and secrets. Instead, you built your own gallows. Her words rolled over the stunned audience. Privilege gave you impunity. Technology and truth have taken it away. Board members stirred. Some rushed to whisper into phones, others scrambled for the exit as murmurs rose to a roar. A handful of parents leapt to their feet, applause bursting like fireworks while others stared in horror, clutching champagne flutes that trembled like broken promises. Zara raised the micro-SD card. This, she said, contains every piece of evidence I've gathered, videos, logs, recordings. It's been forwarded to the school board, the district attorney, and every major news outlet in Atlanta. You cannot unsee this. A final clip played Vice Principal Whitmore, his voice silky, ordering the removal of hallway mics and the destruction of janitorial logs, proof he was more complicit than he cared to admit. Brandon sank to his knees at the podium's base, face buried in his hands. His entourage froze, betrayed by their own recordings now cast across the walls. The gala's string quartet fell silent, instruments left mid-phrase. Security officers in tailored blazers hesitated at the wings, unsure whose orders to follow. Zara paused, breathing steady now, every muscle pulsing with triumph. The auditorium's hush stretched for 2 heartbeats before crescendoing into thunderous applause. Teachers once complicit stood to cheer her courage. Classmates who once sneered rose to their feet in solidarity. Mia appeared beside Zara, lifting the live stream phone aloft, so every second was captured for viewers across the globe. Behind the crowd, Ethan slipped off stage to escort Mr. Barnes forward. The custodian stepped into the light, holding the battered notebook of his logs. I'm proud to have served this school, he said, voice cracking, but I can't stand silent anymore. He opened the book to show decades of bullying cover-ups. The audience murmured in disbelief, Eastside's foundation shaken by the invisible hands that had cleaned its mess. Brandon's father stormed into view, face a mask of rage and panic. He grabbed his son's shoulder, eyes darting to the screens, broadcasting his own complicity. Parents turned their backs on him, donors raised protest signs, and the head of the board signaled for immediate removal of the vice principal and SRO program. The ceremony disintegrated into chaos as trustees evacuated, media crews swarmed, and the gala became an impromptu tribunal. Zara felt relief and fierce vindication swirl in her chest. She turned off the feed with a final tap. The screens snapped back to the empty stage, her silhouette framed by prisms of shattered light. She picked up her cane, not as a shield, but as a banner, and stepped off stage into the arms of her allies. In the lobby's aftermath, flashbulbs popped like gunfire. Reporters clamored for quotes. Students erupted in chants of "Zara has vision." As she moved through the crowd, each step echoed with the power of truth, spoken loud. She passed Brandon, still kneeling in the wreckage of his own, making no pity in her voice. Only resolve you wanted a show, you got one. Now face the consequences. Outside, Atlanta's night sky welcomed her with distant sirens and the distant glow of news helicopters. Zara inhaled the humid air, tasted freedom in every molecule. Her phone buzzed with notifications, offers of speaking engagements, messages from other students saying, "Thank you," and one from the district attorney, "We have what we need." Under the streetlights, Zara tapped her cane 3 times, a steady Morse code of triumph. She'd turned every blow into ammunition, every sneer into evidence. Tonight, injustice was unmasked, and power had a new name: Zara Thompson. The moment the screens went dark and the final piece of evidence played, the room erupted in stunned silence before exploding into chaos. Parents who once clinked wine glasses now shoved them aside as they leaped from their seats, murmurs turning into shouts of outrage. Teachers who had stood mute now formed tight knots, whispering, "Thank you," and we saw everything as they exchanged glances heavy with relief. Board members bolted for the stage, but the interim principal raised his hand, voice steady over the din. "This gala is adjourned, effective immediately. Vice Principal Whitmore is suspended pending investigation. The SRO program will be placed under review." A ripple of applause swept through the front rows, students, parents, even a few trustees cheering the first real accountability they'd witnessed at Eastside Magnet. In the center of the crowd, Zara felt the weight of every sneer lift from her shoulders. Her echo cane tapped softly against the hardwood floor as she stepped offstage, arms slick with sweat and victory. Mia rushed forward, pressing the live stream phone into Zara's hand. Notifications stacked up in real time. Justice for Zara, trending locally, then statewide. View counts soared by the second tens of thousands reached before midnight. Outside the auditorium, news crews swarmed under the glittering marquee. Reporters jostled for position as Zara emerged, flanked by Ethan and Mr. Barnes. Flashbulbs popped like distant gunfire. A local anchor seized the mic. "Zara Thompson, you just changed everything at Eastside Magnet. What happens next?" Zara lifted her chin, voice clear despite the adrenaline still thrumming in her veins. "Now we rebuild trust. Now we demand policies that protect every student, not just the powerful." Within hours, the district attorney's office confirmed they had received the evidence package. A press release announced a formal inquiry into privacy violations, tampering with school property, and abuse of authority. Social media echoed with testimonies from other students sharing hidden stories of harassment. The hashtag #EndPrivilege began to thread through comments petitions launched to eliminate unchecked SRO power in all city schools. By morning, Eastside's halls felt different. Hallway monitors had been reassigned, security cameras reprogrammed, so feeds went directly to an independent oversight board. Students whispered change like a prayer. Zara's locker, once vandalized, now held dozens of apology notes and small bouquets. A freshman peer she'd never met hugged her in the cafeteria, voice trembling, "You gave me hope." The first week after the gala, scholarship offers poured in. Local foundations pledged to cover Zara's full ride at any university, and track coaches from 3 Division I programs sent letters promising support. But what mattered most was the shift in culture. Honor students apologized openly for past cruelty. Teachers integrated consent and privacy modules into civics classes. A school-wide town hall convened where Zara and a council of students drafted a code of respect that would bind every new class. In the longer term, the district rewrote its student safety policies requiring consent for personal data collection, banning unregulated SRO surveillance, and instituting swift penalties for harassment. Similar reforms rippled to neighboring districts. Atlanta's mayor cited Zara's story in a speech launching a task force on equitable school discipline. Headlines called her the blind visionary who exposed the system. Back at her track practice, Zara stood at the starting blocks, wind teasing her hair, as teammates cheered. The gun fired, and she exploded forward, every muscle fueled by months of tension and triumph. As she crossed the finish line, first the scoreboard flashed her name, Z. Thompson, in bold letters. The grandstands roared, not in mockery, but in genuine celebration. In that victorious sprint, Zara realized she hadn't just won a race, she'd rewritten the rules. Every one of us carries a story of being underestimated, judged by factors beyond our control. Zara Thompson's journey teaches us that true strength is forged not in the absence of adversity, but in the decision to confront it head-on. She was a target, blind, young, alone, but she refused to let their cruelty define her worth. Her retaliation wasn't born of vengeance, but of necessity. She weaponized her truth, every wire, every GPS ping, every hacked feed, to expose a system that protected privilege over people. That's the first lesson: when the powerful abuse, their position exposing the truth becomes an act of justice. Technology isn't moral or immoral in itself. It amplifies intention. In Zara's hands, it became a shield for the vulnerable and a mirror for the corrupt. Second, Zara's courage reminds us that solidarity can topple entrenched power. She didn't act alone. Mia's hidden camera, Ethan's backdoor script, Mr. Barnes's stolen logs, each ally risked everything to stand by her. Community isn't a passive network. It's an active chain of accountability. When we witness wrongdoing, silence is complicity. Speaking up even in small ways breaks the cycle of abuse. Third, emotional restraint can be your greatest weapon. Zara's calm when water streamed down her back, her steady breath at the track. Her measured voice on stage all demonstrated that self-control under siege can disarm an aggressor more effectively than anger. She waited prepared and struck with unassailable evidence in hand. Finally, lasting change demands structural reform, not just individual victory. Zara's exposé forced Eastside Magnet and the entire district to rewrite policies on surveillance privacy and disciplinary power. Real justice transforms institutions, ensuring the next Zara doesn't have to crawl through darkness to shine a light. Ask yourself, what truth do you carry that demands exposure? Who in your life needs your voice? Because every act of courage, every shared burden, every revealed secret moves us from oppression toward equity. Zara's story isn't just her own. It's a blueprint for anyone ready to turn personal pain into collective power. Zara Thompson showed us that when injustice hides behind power, the only way forward is to shine a light on the truth, and that light can come from the most unexpected places. A blind athlete armed with courage, community, and technology forced an entire institution to confront its own corruption. If her story moved, you share this video to remind others that silence is never safe, and exposure can be life-saving. Subscribe for more real-life tales of ordinary people taking extraordinary stands, and hit the bell so you never miss the next story of justice in action. Comment below, what would you expose if you had the proof your voice could be the trigger that starts the next revolution? Justice may be hard, but together, it's unstoppable.